as insane as it is, these people that are actually have a business model where they're legally allowed to create money still fuck it up by being incompetent and overly greedy. How you doing, guys? Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com. As I'm sure you guys know, if you've been looking at anything to do with the news, specifically it's any sort of news, it isn't just going to be talking about Trump or something else, is that you'll see that we are seeing pretty substantial continued collapse of the financial industry. And like I've said before, the financial industry, they talk about it like it's a contagion, like it was perfectly healthy, and along came this little bug that got in and now is like working its way through the system and it can be stopped, when it's really more like that turkey from Christmas Vacation, where from the outside it looks perfect, then when they cut it, it's like opens up and it's like a shriveled, desiccated mess inside. And that's what we're dealing with in the banking and financial system, is that the rot has been there for years. The contagion has already worked itself all the way through the entire system. In fact, the system itself is completely DOA. You know, it has flaws in it with the way our money's created, with the way the whole debt-based system works. This was bound to happen eventually. It already started to bubble out of the surface in 2008. They slapped a Band-Aid on the boil, but it's not like the boil is spreading across the body. The body's completely rotten, and they're just trying to cover up the boils as they pop up. But there's nothing they can do. And like I said, the system is completely flawed. The monetary system is completely doomed. It was just a question of when this is going to happen. And the question, of course, is how it's going to happen. Are we going to hit this deflationary collapse like we're seeing in the Fed of Credit Suisse vaporize $17 billion in corporate bonds and another $31 billion in market cap in the last year? That means the Swiss government would have to find nearly $50 billion in new debtors just to stay even. And that's true. And that's why I've always said there's massive deflationary pressure on the economy. But with the way our monetary system works, the only option when that happens, there's only two options, is to let the money literally disappear in a deflationary collapse, or to just create it. And it's true that you will not be able to find actual real lenders, or debtors, I guess, people to buy your debt, and but they can directly monetize it, and eventually that's what they're going to do. They might find more creative ways of talking about it, but when the only two options are, sorry, the money's gone, we can no longer pay our police, we can no longer buy bombs, we can no longer pay our politicians, no welfare payments are going out, no roads are being fixed, no bridges are being fixed, no Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, nothing. And the other option is, well, we get to take the value of our currency from 3% of what it was to 0.00001% of what it was, and at least we stay in power for a little while longer. That's always what they do. They're always going to create more money, directly monetize the debt, come up with a new central bank digital currency that's backed by whatever. And we don't know exactly what form it's going to take, but they're obviously, in my opinion, it's always been the same, that when this starts to happen, they cannot just let the deflationary spiral take place. And we're seeing it happen right now. All these institutions are starting to collapse, and that is going to take over, and they're going to have to do increasingly more and more desperate and dramatic things. And all that's going to do is weaken the monetary system, specifically the currency, to where real things are going to be the only things that have value. And that's why the things that you need to prepare for this, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm a poor prepper, so why would you listen to me? But this is just my opinion about, like the economic ninja says, he's this guy with a bro hawk in a dream. I'm just the guy with the Johnny Bravo in a dream. And there's a few things that you can do because we know what's going to happen, and it doesn't actually matter in the case of the money disappearing or the money becoming almost infinitely available to the point that it's worthless. The end result is the same. You need to be in things, in what Chris Martinson calls first order wealth. The beans, bullets, and band-aids, or what I like to call the stag, chili, silver, and what would be the shooters. So of course, when we're dealing with banking system, the first thing you need to do is cash. And I've talked before recently that only 10% of the money, of the US money that's in existence, is represented by cash. And a lot of that is overseas. There's really not that much cash. And if everyone starts to pull it out, that's what people typically think of as a bank run. But that run the cash scarcity is in existence, even if there theoretically was a healthy economy otherwise. Now we're seeing issues with like SVB, where people like Peter Thiel wasn't trying to pull out his $50 million in cash. He was just trying to transfer it to another, other institution, and that money wasn't even there digitally, because as insane as it is, these people that are actually have a business model where they're legally allowed to create money still fuck it up by being incompetent and overly greedy. So it wasn't that there's enough cash in the bank, because there's never enough cash in any bank to cover all deposits. Like I said, there's only 10% of all the money's in cash. Not even all that's in the United States in the banking system. So that can never be the case. But there's not even enough, the money that is in your account, they're not allowed to loan it out. It's called the simplified money multiplier method. It's actually totally incorrect. They teach that in school because, as repellent as that idea is to the human mind, the way money works is actually much worse. Banks do not ever loan out depositors' funds to other people in terms of like credit cards, home loans. That money is literally created at the moment of the loan. They take the money that's in your deposits and they like invest it in other things. And SVB actually invested in a bunch of these hold to maturity like bonds of some sort that they were tied up for like 10 years and became like way more or less valuable as interest rates go up. Very shady stuff. But so that money wasn't even there available to be withdrawn digitally. So what you need to do is make sure you have access to your wealth. If you have hopefully some wealth to consider, you definitely need to have cash on hand, represented by this cool little pouch. Because like we're seeing, cash is scarce as it is in any other sort of even non-banking environment where electricity goes down, internet goes down, just random machine in the area goes down. Cash is very useful. And especially when there's a banking crisis, cash is very useful. But beyond just the cash, if you have enough money to where you've pulled out 3 to 6 months of direct expenses in cash, maybe even a little extra if you want to be able to take advantage of deals that pop up, depending on how much you have, then you need to go, okay, what am I doing with the rest of my money? If I have, $100,000 in the bank, I don't recommend, I'm not a financial advisor, but I certainly wouldn't pull out $100,000 in just a stack of cash. I would pull out some. I would obviously have a lot of my wealth in physical gold and silver if that were an option. And then digitally, you still have to do something with that money. I think that things like stocks and brokerage accounts would be my guess that they'll be safer than just a direct checking account, because you actually do have an asset there that you own. And of course, the stock prices could go way down, but they are, as long as the business is around, I think that they will, go up with inflation. They might not directly keep pace with inflation or surpass it in the way that silver and gold and commodities probably will, but definitely having money in stocks is going to be better off than having it in a checking account or some sort of weird government bonds or whatever. But maybe having some in there, just in the brokerage account, ready to jump on any deals that pop up. Obviously, I've said this before, a lot of people don't like Bitcoin, but I've said before that regardless of what you think about Bitcoin, it's obviously an asset class to me that people are going to run into when they don't know what to do with, when it's obvious that the normal banking system, the dollar and all that, they're going to go out into all sorts of other stuff. There is not enough physical gold and silver to meet that demand when it finally starts happening of, I got to get out of this shit. Where am I going to put my money? Because these people that have, tons of money, they're not going to pull it all out in cash. They're not going to buy tens of millions of dollars in physical gold and silver and sit on it in their apartment in New York City or whatever. They'll do that with some of it, and the price of gold and silver is going to go absolutely through the roof. But a lot of them they'll just want to be able to instantly transfer it into a digital asset that they know is going to not be affected directly by like a banking system collapse. And crypto is one of those things. Regardless of what it's going to be like long term, it will be somewhere where people can put their money in the short term, knowing that they can move it, knowing that it's probably not going to go to zero like everything else is, knowing that it's not directly tied to a dollar or counterparty risk or anything like that. So I do think we will see the big cryptocurrencies. Who knows what will happen with the little ones, the shit coins, the altcoins, whatever. That's always going to be the Wild West. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe one or two others, I think are going to go up a lot when this stuff starts crashing. And we've already seen Bitcoin go up quite a bit this year. It's up to like 27,000, and it was down, I think it was down to like 16 or 17,000 at the low point, either end of last year or beginning of this year. So already seeing that happen. Of course, the big thing is, especially if you don't have, a lot of money to worry about, but even if you do, you absolutely need to take care of the physical things that you need to continue in the lifestyle to which you've become accustomed. And the more money you have, the easier this is to do. and the more completely you can do it. Because regardless of what happens in the banking system, you could be wrong, or I could be wrong about what is a safe haven, what's not. But what we do know always is that we're going to need food, we're going to need water, we're going to need probably certain types of medicine, a little bit of security, a little bit of power of some kind, electricity. So those are the things that you can 100% know that they're going to help out if you have them, if times get tough, or even if they don't, as Jack Spirko says. So food storage, at least in my opinion, 3 months. I think 6 months is easy enough, especially if you're talking about just bolstering your dry grains like rice and oats and stuff like that for a couple people. But 3 months should be a bare minimum for you, because that's just way too easy. I made a video before, which I can link in the description, about how to get a 1 month supply of food for like $105, probably a little bit more now as prices keep going up. Yet another reason to buy more food now. And then if you add in, I made another video, if you think like, oh my God, I can't eat rice and Spam or whatever for a month, I'll die, or I'll never shit again, or I'll never stop shitting, or whatever people think is the problem. I just made another recent video about supplements and additives, or whatever you want to call it, nutritional things that you can buy to bolster a really cheap food supply, and that will get rid of any of those problems for just a little bit more money. And then of course the electricity. I've made videos about this into your power station with solar panels. If you have other ways of creating power, even like oil lamps, but nowadays with the LEDs and all that stuff, the only reason that wouldn't be way better is in any sort of EMP, but you can protect your stuff from that as well. The Jace case and the other Duration Health, I think, which I haven't actually gone over theirs, but they're out there. I'm not an affiliate with them yet, for medicine. And water storage, if you don't live in an area where there's plentiful water, but certainly at least water purification. You want to have like a big Berkey or something along those lines, even a sun oven, you can pasteurize water in there, and then a way to cook food. So all that normal stuff, and then obviously a little bit of security. The bullets part of the beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. And those are things that don't change. And those are going to get us, if you have all that basic squared away for like 3 months, and you start doing some smart things with whatever wealth you do have on hand, I think you'll be well suited to not only make it through this, but potentially benefit in certain ways as well. So let me know what you guys think, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I always have said in the past that I'm always a little too early on how all this stuff is going to go down. And my initial instinct, like what pops into my head, is, oh my God, this is all happening, and we could see crazy stuff happen within the next few months. Maybe even a few weeks, which is, of course, possible, but the way it's always worked out in the past is these things take much longer than I thought. So, in the rational, conscious part of my brain, I'm thinking this will probably play out over the next few years, not the next few months, but we're still going to see some weird shit happening in the next few months. And any of that could be accelerated with, the ongoing military conflicts. So let me know what you guys think, if you can come up with any sort of timeline for this. But my guess would be that we'll start seeing major currency issues in the next, I would guess 2 to 5 years. But like I said, that's just a guess. But we know it's going to happen eventually. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.